Right. So
Right.
my name is Olga Mogollon, and I'm the operations manager at Indianapolis Neighborhood Resource Center. And we used to host the Public Allies Indianapolis AmeriCorps program. I was also the resource coordinator for that program, and I'm a two-time alum from our fourth and fifth class. And we're excited to offer a virtual Spark session series with you all. These sessions are always free and a space for us to share important and timely resources with our community. Today, our topic is investing in your future. And our phenomenal host, Jackie Ivy, is going to talk about how to leverage your professional connections and how to maximize your education award. After her presentation, we will have about 15 or so minutes to do a Q&A. And with that, I'd like to introduce our presenter for the evening, Jackie Ivy. Jackie is the Associate Director of the Institute for a STEM Ready America at STEM Next Opportunity Fund. She previously served as the Senior Advisor for Workforce Development and Training at the American Climate Corps. And with over 16 years of experience in workforce development, program management, and operations, Jackie is dedicated to advancing economic mobility and job quality for young adults and historically resilient communities. Her expertise spans diverse sectors, including city government, SOS, I'll ask you about that later, technology, retail, and social impact. She's also an alum of Public Allies Indianapolis's very first class, so she is an AmeriCorps graduate. Welcome, Jackie.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. And thank you so much for joining me today. As Olga mentioned, I'm Jackie. I'm a three-time AmeriCorps alum, and I did it across three states. First in Indianapolis with the inaugural cohort of Public Allies Indianapolis, which is also my home city. Then I moved to Florida to take on Literacy AmeriCorps Palm Beach County. And then I completed my third term as an AmeriCorps Vista in California, working on college and career readiness curriculum. So all that to say is that my AmeriCorps experience took me literally coast to coast, but it also paved the way for me to have this very nonlinear and multi-sectoral career. And one of the ways I was able to do that was by networking and by maximizing my Ed Award, which are the two topics that we are going to discuss today. So I'm going to jump right in because I have way more slides than what we have time for. But I know most people don't like networking because it can feel inauthentic and it feels like it can be incredibly overwhelming, especially if you're an introvert like I am. But I'm here to let you know that networking is for everyone and networking is not magic, right? It's not hard to crack, it's not hard to do. And it's also, like I said, not magic because it doesn't guarantee you an outcome. However, networking is incredibly important because it increases your probability of getting to a yes. And so when you think about networking historically, you always have that image in your mind of like someone passing out business cards or being on LinkedIn all day, every day, and trying to be the most connected person in the room and trying to make the most connections with the right people, right? But reality, networking is really about just keeping your name in motion with people who know you so that you are the first person they think about when an opportunity comes up. And so, what you need to do to make networking easy is to remove the friction and make it easy for someone to say yes. So, all that to say, you have the network that you have. It's super beneficial. It's much larger than you think. So sometimes when you're thinking about networking, it's that notion of like, who's the right person that I need to network with? And you're constantly collecting them like Pokemon. You don't have to do that. Your ecosystem is large. So you have everyone who is in your Americo ecosystem. We're all working professionals. So you have former colleagues, former supervisors that you can reach out to. That's your network. Friends and family are your network. Neighbors, acquaintances, industry peers, former teachers and classmates, they are all a part of our network, whether you were with them for a day or a decade. They are all a part of that network, and they are someone that you can tap into when you need help. Now, you have the network that you need. And I will say this over and over again, you already have access to the right people in your network. The reason that you get caught up on networking sometimes is that you have to be able to help them help you. And what that means is you already have the right people, but if you are not clear on how to activate your network and you're not clear on how to ask for help, other people don't know how to help you. And that's where networking typically falls apart, right? So if I were to ask you all today, what are you looking for next? Would you be able to answer that question clearly and within one sentence. So if I ask you right now, Molly, like, what do you want to do next? If you can't tell me in one sentence, that is definitely normal and it's okay. But it's also the reason why networking tends to fall apart because we can't ask for what we don't know we need, right? So clarity will always be the foundation of how we utilize the people in our network. So let's talk through how to do a four-part framework or structure for reaching out to folks in your network. So oftentimes when people come to me, they're like, hey, can I pick your brain on something? I'm looking for a job. Do you have time to chat? Those are questions that probably aren't going to elicit the response that you're looking for. So if you follow this specific four-part structure, it will help you reduce the friction and make networking easier so that the person you are reaching out to is more inclined to say yes. So let's talk through briefly. This four-part structure consists of four parts, henceforth the four-part structure. The first thing is context. It's who are you? So you need to let the person you're reaching out to know who you are. State the connection that you have. Part two of that is going to be your direction. So where's the conversation going and what is your overall specific goal? Part three is going to be the ask. So what do you need from that individual that you are reaching out to? Whenever you're reaching out to someone to your in your network, it should always be around insight, advice, or resource to share. You should never go hot out the gate asking for a job. Even though I've had plenty of people in my LinkedIn DMs do that, I don't recommend. And then part four is time. Everybody wants to know if you're going to ask me something, how long is it going to take so I can do the math to figure out is it worth my time to be able to invest in this request? So let's see what this four-part structure looks like in action. So I have three examples that I will, and again, this deck will go out to you after the after our time together. But using that four-step framework, these are three examples that do exactly just that. It sets the context, the direction, the ask, and the time. So I'll read the first one to you, and then we'll move forward and keep motoring because again, I got a lot of slides to get through. But using that four-step framework, here's what it looks like in action. I've been following your work in workforce development and noticed your transition from nonprofit operations into state policy. I'm exploring a similar move and would value 20 minutes to understand how you positioned yourself. So, in just one paragraph, that covered the context. I've been following your work in workforce development and noticed your transition from nonprofit operations to state policy. It also covered the direction. I'm exploring a similar move. It then layered in the time element. I would value 20 minutes, and then it closed with the ask to understand how you positioned yourself. So in one paragraph, we got context, we got direction, the ask, and the time. And this really works because it allows you to acknowledge a very specific path for that person in your network to respond to. I like it because it's very specific and it's not generic. It's not a general like LinkedIn message that you send to everyone in your network. And it directly connects to your goal and it's specific, right? So asking the context, the direction, the ask, and the time, and layering that in your outreach increases your probability of getting a yes because they know exactly what you need and how much time it's going to take. So let's say you send that out and they actually have the conversation with you. This is typically where most people drop the ball when it comes to reaching out to and engaging their network. You have the conversation and then you don't hear anything from you again. So I always recommend, and this is standard advice, right? After your conversation, send a thank you note within 24 hours. That is mostly to honor the time and the value and the expertise that that individual in your network gave you to share that wisdom. The second piece is when you send out that thank you note, you are going to specifically reference one specific insight or action item they gave you. That way, it shows that you actually appreciated their time and you listened while you were there engaging with them. The third piece is you're going to action on some of the advice they gave you. Now, everybody's advice isn't good advice, but I know that there's always nuggets of information and advice that you can action on. So whenever you meet with someone in your network and they give you something actionable to do, no matter how small, go ahead and do that. Because the pro tip is you follow up 2 to 3 months later and let them know an update. So it's immediately send a thank you note for that initial conversation, let them know what you're going to do next, and then follow up 2 to 3 months later, letting them know that you took action. And that serves multiple purposes. It, one, again, values their time, but it also created a second touch point for you 2 to 3 months later so that they remember, oh, yeah, remember talking to Jean about that. And I love that she followed up with me and took my advice. So that's another connection point to someone in your network so that when they're thinking of opportunities, you're in the back of their mind. Now, we also want to talk about how do you gain momentum when you're networking. And this is whenever you have a conversation with someone, one conversation should always lead to two. And the reason for that is what's called the golden question. So, whenever you're meeting with someone, whether it's for 5 minutes or 5 hours, your last question should always be, is there anyone else you think I should speak with? Because the answer is always yes. People's networks are so vast and they're so wide. If anyone tells you, no, I don't think there's anyone, then they are not your people. And it also just does not happen. I have never once asked that question and someone respond with no. So this is a really great way for the person in your network to then introduce you to someone else who gets you closer to your goal. That is how you build momentum and that is how you expand your network based on people you currently already know. So again, networking is simple. It is an easy framework. If you are clear with your ask and you know exactly what you need, you ask that person in your network and then you follow up with a good email. You hit them up 2 or 3 months later to let them know how you actioned. And then, of course, you always ask the golden questions so that you get closer to the goal that you have in mind. Now, we can't talk about networking without talking about the almighty LinkedIn. Some people have a love-hate relationship with it. You may not want to use it. You might be on it all day, every day, and that's perfectly fine too. But LinkedIn, you have to learn how to use it strategically. I don't know if you've ever logged into LinkedIn before and you've seen a feed of people and it just feels really inauthentic and performative, and people are giving all these updates, and you're like, okay, I don't even want to be on here. I want to log off, right? Still think there is value and utility in being on LinkedIn. The first thing is positioning, right? So when you have your LinkedIn profile, you want people to read your LinkedIn headline for them to understand where you're going. So if you are currently in service or if you're a recent alum and you're like, and in your headline, you have a AmeriCorps member, that's great for anybody in the AmeriCorps ecosystem who understands the power and the impact that you bring. But if you're looking for a job in corporate, not everybody can translate what an AmeriCorps member or an AmeriCorps alum is. So then you need to change the positioning. You're not lying, you're just changing how you translate your experience in a way that's understandable to the industry and the job role that you are wanting to go after. So that means instead of saying you were an AmeriCorps member, maybe you were actually doing program operations or community engagement or workforce strategy, right? So, positioning is why LinkedIn is important because you need a digital professional place to land where people can get a first glance at you, especially when you reach out to your network, because oftentimes that first touch point of re engaging with someone is usually going to their LinkedIn profile. Uh, the next reason you would still want to use or utilize LinkedIn is because of credibility. This gives you a place of putting all of your quantifiable and measurable outcomes. So, regardless of the job you've had and what you were doing in your AmeriCorps experience, you've all done something that is measurable and has quantifiable impact. And your LinkedIn profile is the best place to put that so that you show credibility in your skill sets. And then lastly is visibility. Again, you don't have to be on LinkedIn all day, every day, but you do need to establish a digital footprint of where people can engage with you professionally. And again, LinkedIn is one of the best places to do that. So you can strategically send updates into the ether or to specific people on LinkedIn, letting them know that you are going after a new role or that you received a new certification. You can do that to gain visibility. Again, you don't need to do it weekly like you see some folks doing, just quarterly is enough. And the reason for that is LinkedIn is a social media tool and it's also algorithmic based. So if you are posting and updating, you are more inclined to be shown to folks in your broader network. So that's the reason for doing that. So let's talk a little bit about cross-sector translation. Again, if you are coming out of a AmeriCorps program or if you've been in the nonprofit space for several years and you're wanting to do a sector pivot or you're trying to translate how your AmeriCorps experience really translates to corporate or government, there's going to be some cross-sector translation required. So oftentimes you're going to see if you want a corporate role, like community organizing is the exact same thing as stakeholder management. If you're doing volunteer management, that's the same as talent operations. Capacity building is a form of process optimization. These are the same skills using different vocabulary. And so you have to find a way to translate your AmeriCorps experience so that it can be viewed through the lens of someone who is in corporate or government and may not use the same language as you every single day. So I'm going to end with one short checklist on the networking piece. And so when you think about sending out messages to people in your network, make sure you have clarity. Again, state exactly what you need. Are you able to do that in one sentence? If you know for sure that you have a specific industry, or if you're wanting to move up from entry level to director level, that's a quantum leap, but it's possible. Or if you know that there's a specific geography, make sure that you have that clarity in your message so that folks in your network know explicitly how to help you. The second piece is your outreach structure. Remember that four-piece framework that we just walked through. Did you include the right context, the direction, a specific ask, and did you time bound it? And then again, remember to remove those vague phrases of picking your brain or asking for something too broad because your network may not know how to help you. And then let's talk about relationship building. Did you act on the advice once you were able to reach out to that person and make connections in your network? And then did you schedule that 60 to 90-day follow up so that they could keep you in top of mind? And then lastly, when you look at your LinkedIn profile, is your headline reflecting the future direction that you want to go? And then if you're reaching out to folks, are you being thoughtful about it and following the same outreach network that you did? So again, networking is not about a spray and pray method. It's not about connecting with as many people as possible. It's genuinely about making a few targeted, meaningful connections that increase your probability of visibility. But again, not a guarantee. So, over the next 30 days, I would love to challenge you all to go through and do three things. One is to audit. This means auditing everybody in your network in your ecosystem. The fastest way to do that is to see who are you currently connected to on LinkedIn. If you can identify five warm people, meaning people that you actually know, people that if you were to email them or reach out to them on LinkedIn today, you know that they would be inclined to respond. And then you draft your ask using that four-step framework. So I would love to see examples of that. If you're interested, you can email it to me. I would hope, since we're on this call together, that one of the people you would reach out to could be me, because we can make new connections. But again, I would also love for you to again do targeted outreach. So send warm contacts send messages to warm contacts and just tap into your network. And then if you are pretty bold and you feel comfortable, try to schedule a coffee chat with someone because now more than ever, in-person connection brings in much more of a benefit than just emailing out into the ether, especially now, because people want to support people. And if you can have that in-person connection, even if it's brief, it goes a long way. And then lastly, moving over to weeks 3 and 4, try a momentum strategy. So again, conduct that coffee chat, send the thank you note, and then follow up 2 months from now and let them know what you learned. So action creates clarity. Clarity allows people to move on your behalf, and it allows you to strategically build and utilize your network. So there are a few key resources that I would love everybody to tap into after we have our call. The first thing is going to LinkedIn and joining the AmeriCorps alums LinkedIn group if you aren't already on it. That would personally be my first stop because it is every AmeriCorps alum like ever. And it's a really great opportunity for you to test out some of these networking strategies. I'll chat through a little bit more on the schools of national service and employers of national service in the next half when we talk about the Segal Education Award. But I also want everybody to join Service Year Alliance. They actually run a lot of the AmeriCorps alums LinkedIn group, where Service Year Alliance is another great way for you to connect with AmeriCorps members and alums across the board. Like it's something that I use almost 17 years out of being in AmeriCorps. So it is a great resource and a safe space to land when you're looking for community and connection. So before I shift into talking about the Education Award, are there any specific questions you have around networking that I can answer for you? Or you're like, good, we're finally to the part that I want. Tell me how to use the money. Okay. All right. We're taking silence as tell me about the money. So let's get into it. So, one of the most underutilized benefits of being an AmeriCorps alum is your education award. So let's talk more about it. If you are a current or a recent alum, you get the full like $7,395 of what your not Pell Grant, it's what your education award should be. And this number is tied to our federal Pell Grants. So if you completed your AmeriCorps term a few years back, your AmeriCorps award might look a little bit lower, and again, that is because the rates are tied to what is happening with our federal Pell Grants. But you get that, and excuse me, it's if you want to utilize your ed award, it's paid directly to the school or the lender. Unfortunately, it does not go to us. We don't get it, direct deposited. We don't get a check for it. But as a part of being an AmeriCorps alum, you can also get up to two full lifetime terms of it. So I was a three-time AmeriCorps alum. I got a full, and they were all full-time programs. So my first year, and this is because I'm aging myself, was like 3,700 the first year I did it. And then my second year, it was about $4,800. Like that was my ed award. And then my third year was a Vista term. You don't get the ed award, but you do get a cash stipend, and that stipend was $1,200 at that time. But when whenever you officially and successfully exit your service, you have 7 years from the time that you complete to utilize your education award. And if for some reason you do not use it in the 7 years, you lose it. And by lose it, I mean it goes back into the trust and it will be gifted or earned by another AmeriCorps member who successfully completed their service. So please keep that in mind. You got 7 years from the time that you exit your program to use it. Your education award, even though you earned it, it's similar to earned income. So it is taxable. So you're going to have to be incredibly mindful of when you decide to use your education award because depending on how much income you make, using your ed award can change the tax bracket you're in, and there could be some tax implications to that. So just know that up front. And then lastly, in order for you to exercise or use your education award, it has to be used at a Title IV institution, which is essentially any institution that takes on federal aid. And there are hundreds of institutions in the US that take it. So you're in good company. Like there's so many that will take it. You're going to be fine. And the process is relatively straightforward. And I say relatively because it does require you to go to myamericorps.gov and you have to search for that specific institution that you want to utilize your benefit with. And then you have to submit your new payment request. And if you've been on any government website lately, full disclaimer that given the current administration that we're in, there's several pages that are down, several pages that are archived, and it is incredibly difficult to navigate some of these spaces. So give yourself a long runway to find the information that you need and to be able to apply because the websites are going on and offline at a moment's notice. So give yourself some time and space to get this done when you're ready to utilize it. So some of the traditional uses for your education award, they follow two paths. You're either paying for future education or you're paying for past education. So it's often used for your tuition and fees, room and board, books and supplies, or if you want to study abroad at a Title IV institution. Then you're using your past education. So that means if you have student loans, you can use your education award to pay for a portion of that. Um, Private loans, that's going to be based specifically on the lender. Some allow it, others do not. You'll just have to contact them directly and see if they'll take it. But federal student loans and state student loans are an easy sell. And then occasionally defaulted loans that are in rehabilitation. Those are a little harder to get with the education award paid off. But again, it's a person by person and institution based. So just know that there's some fine print there. But one of the most underutilized elements of being eligible for the education award is the free money hidden benefit, is what I like to call it. And that's because people seem to forget or don't realize that AmeriCorps will pay 100% of the interest that you accrued on your student loans while you're in service. The challenge is you have to request it manually in the portal. So most people miss this opportunity. So while you go into your myamericorps.gov and you are going through the process of trying to utilize your education benefit, you need to be going in here and making sure that you don't pass up free money and make sure that you get the interest paid for the time that you served. You're serving our country by being directly in community. You took this vow, you earned the education award, and you earned the right to have this interest paid while you are in service. So please utilize it. So let's talk about some fun and some creative uses of your education award. Because I did one of these, and if you're just like, I don't want to go back to school or I don't want to use it on tuition, we have some fun ways for you to use it. So I broke it down into three categories. So we're going to talk about adventure, tech and skills, and global study. So the first thing is like an AmeriCorps favorite, which is the Knowles Outdoor Leadership School. So if you love the outdoors and you love going on expeditions, Knowles Outdoor Leadership School will actually match your Ed Award up to $2,000 for any of the expeditions that are 60 plus days. So if you're like, I want to go and learn wilderness, like first responder medicine, I want to be able to learn, like get my leave no trace behind master's educator certification, you can get that through Knowles and you can use your education award and you can go as close as like Montana, Colorado. You can go to India. You can go to all these places and learn, like one, get a credential, two, like learn some really good conservation work and how to survive in outdoor wilderness skills. But then you also get that additional bonus of we will give you an additional $2,000 just for being an AmeriCorps alum and using your education award. Now, if 61 plus days feels like too much of a commitment for you and you're like, I'm looking for something that like fun, but like outdoor light. The good thing is Knowles Outdoor Leadership School also partners with Western Colorado University, which is a Title IV school. And they also offer shorter programs. So if you were to apply to a Knowles Outdoor Leadership School program and you do it through Western Colorado University, you can still use your Ed Award and take a shorter course. So if you're like, I just want to do a 2 week, 3 weeks max, I can't do 61 days, then that is a workaround that you can use to leverage your education award. The next thing is if you're interested in bolstering your tech skills. So, Coding Temple is a part of the National Schools of Service. And the National Schools of Service is just a list of employers and organizations who are committed to investing in AmeriCorps alum. And so they will also provide a $500 scholarship if you use your education award with them. And so if you're interested in launching a career in tech, they do have 10 to 12-week programs if you're interested in becoming a software engineer or working on data analytics. So if you're thinking about that pivot of like, huh, I actually would like to learn some coding skills, this is an option for you. Now, I share this because it is an option, but I will say, as someone like in my former life, I ran a boot camp program similar to this, and I will say that there are other opportunities that will give you the same credentials for less. And I can share that with you afterward. But again, if you're like, I'm all in on this and I want to use my education award, just know that Coding Temple is an option, but there are also free tools that provide the same robust training, and if you want to leverage your education award somewhere else, you have the ability to do that as well. Now, one of my favorites is Semester at Sea. So this is an option I used my very first time. So Semester at Sea is sponsored through Colorado State University. So if you are interested in taking either a full semester course, and sometimes they offer what's called the Maymester, which is like a 1 month voyage, you are able to use your education award in order to cover room, board, and tuition for this experience. And they also offer matching depending on the program and the you can potentially get your education award match, which I think is great. So that was an option I did after my first year in AmeriCorps. So again, a really fun way if you earn an education, you can do a certificate, you can earn credits, or you can go in as a lifelong learner, travel to several countries, and use your ed award to do that. And then lastly, if you're like, I'm really interested in going back to school and I want to be able to maximize that benefit, well, I highly recommend SIT Graduate Institute. So if you're interested in getting your master's degree, we like SIT because they match you dollar for dollar on your Ed Award up to 6,345. So you have the ability to almost double the full impact of your education award while you're in pursuit of a master's degree. And this is also a program that you can do online if you're interested, but they also have locations around the world. So, again, lots of unique ways for you to utilize your education award. It just depends on where are you most interested, what's on your heart to do, what skills do you want to learn. But again, it all has to be tied to education in some way. So again, if you're looking for ways to like, how do I extract the most value out of my Ed Award? It's always starting with the schools of national service. I go here first because all of the schools who are on the registry for the schools of national service are going to match your education award in some way, in some way. They, if they don't match it dollar for dollar, they will at least give you scholarships between like $1,000 to $5,000. Some programs still do exist where they will cover your tuition in full. The challenge that you run into now is just like with the changing dynamics and the fact that it's so hard to dig up these resources, it really requires you to go and look at the school that you're interested first. And then you have to dig through the archives of that educational institutions to see what the AmeriCorps match will be. So it's not a fun process and it's not as easy as it used to be back when I was in AmeriCorps, but the information is still there and it still exists. And so I always recommend go to the schools of national service first so you can see that full list of like 300 to 400 programs and universities who will match your education award. And then also, even if they don't match, there's so many institutions that will give you fee waivers because it's expensive to apply to a program. And you want to be able to do this as quickly and as cheaply as possible, especially after serving your community. We don't have time to be paying full price. Like we want it for free. And the best way to do that is to look at the schools of national service and to see what fee waivers you can get. Now, some of the common pitfalls I've seen with folks utilizing their education award is that they let the 7 year window expire. Like you all work so hard serving our communities and being on the front lines. Like you want to be able to maximize this award. And I know several folks who allow it to expire is because they feel like, well, I don't want to go and get a degree. why am I even going to use this money if it's for school? And that's because education looks and feels different. Like I just shared, like if you want to go off to India and learn about backcountry wilderness training, you can do that now. Like there's so many ways to maximize it. It's just getting clarity about what excites you and what lights you up, and then trying to see if there is a Title IV institution that offers that opportunity. So don't let this sit for 7 years because it's a missed opportunity for you to maximize it. The second thing is, and I did this mistake myself. I waited right to the seventh year when I was actually making decent money to use my education award, and then it bumped me up to a tax bracket, and I was like, oh, there's a lot of fees attached to this, and I wasn't ready. So I want you to be prepared. Like be strategic in how you use it because you need to set aside at least 15 to 20% for you to be able to cover the taxes on the value of your award. So something to keep in mind. And then again, the last piece is like forgetting that AmeriCorps will cover your interest if you have student loans. So make sure you file right away that benefit so that it pays the interest that you accrued while you were in service. So I have another 30-day plan for folks when it comes to utilizing your education award. The first thing is log into your AmeriCorps account, verify your balance and your expiration date because that is your hardcore deadline. Knowing that we're under a situation where a lot of federal departments are understaffed, and knowing that it takes a lot for educational institutions to be able to process this as well, I would say don't wait until the last minute, like right before your award is going to expire, for you to exercise it. You really need to give yourself a runway. The second piece is look for national schools of service and try to find institutions who will match your education award. Even if you don't want to pursue a 2 or 4 year degree, just look at what they offer because sometimes in their continuing education, you might find some really interesting classes in there that only take 10 to 12 weeks, or you can use it to potentially study abroad. So look at those schools of national service to find programs who are going to give you the most bang for your buck. Lastly, again, request the interest payment. If you haven't, like if you're still in program and or you're at least within your window, like get the interest taken off. That's less money that you're going to have to pay later. So do that. And then, of course, consider the unique ways to spend your education award. So Outdoor Leadership School is a great opportunity. Looking at trade schools, because trades will always be in business. They're always in favor. We always need people in the skilled trades, you can use that dollar for dollar. So look at other professional certificates as well to support the journey that you want to move towards next. So do that over the next 30 days or so because I don't want you to lose out on the benefits that you've already worked so hard for. So am I'm done. It's pretty easy. So I'm happy to just exit here and stop sharing, and then I can answer any questions you might have. I tried to keep it tight and brief so that we can meet it within the hour, but there are several slides I skipped. So when you receive the deck, just know you're like, she didn't talk about any of this, and that was just for the interest of time. But happy to leave it here if you have questions.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Um, so I think I am interested in using my education award, like for school. Um, but I don't know really like what school like at this age or at this level for me like looks like. Like I don't know if I wanted to do um, learn something like in the trades or just coding or anything. Like that sounds great and I want to do that, but I don't know how to do school and also kind of like still work, I guess. Like this is
Yeah.
different. This is a different life than when I was like in school, like in college.
Yep.
Um and I still have like responsibilities and bills. So I don't know if you have any advice about like going back to school, um, but also still like working at the same time.
Yeah. So. I would say working and going to school at the same time, it's a lot. So when I did my master's program, I was working full time and going to school full time. But I would ask you, what is it that you want to do next? And if you're like, I'm not sure, then it's about what's the skill that you want to build, or what's the problem that you want to solve, and how can your education award get you one step closer to that goal? And if you're not sure about, like, I don't know, like the world just feels like it's a dumpster fire right now and I don't know which way to move, then I would recommend, if you still have a couple of years left before utilizing your education award, then I would hold until you are sure about what you would like to pursue next. I would also look at doing all the free stuff first. 'Cause I really believe in try before you buy it. If you're like, I'm interested in coding, do the free version first. Are you someone who's like, I need to be in a classroom and I need to be hand in hand with an instructor? Is it I'm self-reliant and I want something flexible I can do in my own time, and I want something, that is very low maintenance and self-directed? If you know yourself that way first, then it gives you better clarity on how to utilize your education award. But I do not recommend just going back to school just because we don't know what to do, because I want to make sure that you maximize the value of it. And also learning from my own mistakes. I'm like, don't do what I did. But I would say, if you can figure out what skills are you interested in, what industry are you interested in, or what problem you want to solve, then you can backwards map to say, like, this particular certification does that, and this Title IV institution offers it, so I can utilize my Ed Award there.
Okay.
All right. Do you have a follow-up at that, Brandy? I didn't want to.
Um, no, I think that is really helpful. I do need to think about, yeah, what it is that I want to do exactly. So, yeah, that's the first step.
Awesome. So Janine asked, do you have any thoughts on certificates to earn while serving? Unique ones that you have heard other people earning?
So I will also say it depends on what is the skill you're trying to build, and what exactly, like, because when I think about your program, like, where did you serve when you were in your program? And then what are you interested in doing? Because service looks so different for everyone. I know my first year when I was in public allies, I was at an education nonprofit. The second year in Florida, I was actually working in schools in Florida, doing college and career readiness. And then my third year, I'm in Pasadena, California, writing college and career curriculum. So I would say the type of certificates should really be based on the skill you want to build. It should be aligned to an industry that you're interested in, or aligned to what's called a durable skill, or a type of skill that's going to last beyond the shifts that you're seeing in the labor market. So right now, everybody and their mom is doing AI, and you're like, everything is AI embedded. And you're like, what does that even mean? So most folks are looking at, like, how do you do prompt engineering? That's pretty popular because it's going to become a standard skill of, as you're utilizing AI intelligent, like artificial intelligence tools, you're going to have to learn how to properly write the prompt for it to elicit the response that you need, right? This another certificate that seems to never go out of style for folks is your PMP, or if you're wanting to be a project manager. I If that is a tool or an industry that you're interested in jumping into, then you can go that route. But I would mostly say, what are the skills that you want to build, and then pursue the certificates that way.
And I like that you mentioned the LinkedIn group, because probably if Janine, you do think about what you're interested in, then you could post something there and be like, hey, what are some interesting, certificates that you all have earned? And you might get some really interesting response that you didn't even think of that you were interested in. So that might be a good place. I didn't know there was a LinkedIn group, so I'm going to go join it later. um, okay, next we have Molly said, when is the earliest you can access the education fund? I've been working with AmeriCorps since September of 2025.
Yeah. So as soon as you successfully exit your service, so this means you completed your 1,700 hour requirement, to maximize the full education award, and your program successfully exited you, meaning like they have to go on the back end and click buttons to say that you actually did your 1,700 hours. And so you are qualified for the full award. As soon as that is done, you can hop into the AmeriCorps portal and utilize your funds. The issue that you're going to run into is the bureaucracy of it all, because there's like lower staffing levels across the board on federal programs. So even if your program director like does everything that they need to do on their end, there's still some work on the federal side of the house that needs to happen to like move that digital paperwork along to then make it available to you. And that is what lengthens the runway a little bit, just because of staffing and backlog. So, but it's
Um,
relatively.
oh, sorry. No, continue. I
Oh
was
no, you're
gonna.
good. No, you're good.
Okay. She was just asking, can I access it even if I repeat my term? And I was just gonna say you can access the first term's, right,
Hmm.
education fund. Is that
Yes,
correct?
exactly.
Okay.
Yep. So you'll be able to utilize for your first term that you successfully completed, and it won't even show up as an option for you if you're currently in a term and you have not completed, because they still have to certify that you actually did what you said you did.
And then Janine responded just and said that AI is something that does come up, so she appreciates you touching on that, and that she appreciates the answer.
Yeah, of
Um,
course. It's just a diamond. You can't go anywhere without somebody
no,
saying something. It
yeah.
is just the way of the world now.
So I had a question because I worked in the resources, and something I didn't know until much more recently. I don't know if I probably did learn it and forgot about the interest item. I apologize. That is my front door. 1 second. It's probably my kid coming home from soccer. So um, it's would you suggest making the interest repayment request before you make the ed award payment on the loan, or could you make it like I'm trying to, like, when people ask me, I'm like, would you want to pay that first so that when you use your ed award to pay off the loan, the interest is removed from it?
Yep. I would take that approach. It's like
Okay.
get the number down as best as you can, and then and then go from
Yes.
there. Totally.
Okay. Because I didn't know about that one until more recently, so I have gotten questions about it, and I'm like, I didn't know. So yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So and then for clarity, can you make the request for the interest loan repayment like immediately, or do you have to wait for your term over to like see the total? Do you know?
So it may have changed. So my first year I did this, it was immediate. The second year, the button just magically wasn't there until a
Hmm.
few weeks after I completed. So
Okay.
I would say it just depends on if you're able to log in now. It might be there, it might not. It's one of those things you have to keep checking back for, just because of
Okay.
all the changes happening on the back end.
Okay. And then I have one last thing I was going to say, which is that once we are back at a decent staff capacity, the phone number for the Education Award is amazing. So if you ever have to call that number, you'll get a person right away, which is super awesome. But I don't think that's probably the case right now. But that has been my experience in the past when we were fully staffed, that calling that Ed Award number that is on the web page, you get to talk to a person pretty quickly, and they can walk you through things if anyone gets lost. So hopefully that will be back soon.
Yes, fingers crossed, because they're just a wealth of information. And then one workaround you can do is called the Wayback Machine. So it looks at the archives. I'm like, that is how you get, like in this day and age, just use the Wayback Machine and then point it to the AmeriCorps website so that you can get access to the information that you need. So yeah, you have
Awesome.
to be much more creative and these days to get the information, but it's there. Yeah.
That is correct. Yes. Does anyone else have any more questions for Jackie while we have her? And again, when you get the recording and the slides, it'll have some contact information for Jackie. Like she said, make sure she's one of your warm contacts
Yeah,
for
reach
reaching out.
out.
And then if you have any like questions you didn't think of in the moment, you can reach out, and you can reach out to us as well. As the host, we're happy to share some information. I don't have quite the wealth of knowledge that Jackie does, but I do have some experience helping with resources for AmeriCorps members. I work specifically usually with like SNAP benefits and things at more of the state level. So if anyone here has questions about that, you can reach out to me about those things as well. The child care benefit, SNAP, things like that.
Yeah, that's all incredibly important.
Yeah, indeed.